I bet you're wondering how to break into venture capital. How do I know? You clicked on this video.
You want this.
You've probably heard all the pros of VC and maybe some of the cons, and you think it could be the right career path for you. If so, I'm gonna walk you through some of the most common steps to land your dream VC gig. But stay until the end where I'll share the uncommon path that could get you where you want to be even faster. All right, so first, let's make sure that we're on the same page about what venture capital is and isn't. Venture capital is not sitting in a cushy plush chair on television and squabbling with other investors and asking inane questions to entrepreneurs.
I've given up trying to argue with you.
Real venture capital is a profession. You're investing other people's money. You're basically an asset manager. So people give you money, you take that money, you invest it in companies, and then you spend time helping those companies grow and develop. And eventually you hope that those companies can grow and become huge successes that can generate massive returns. Which brings us to the pros of being a VC. If you do it right, you can be incredibly wealthy. Some investors have kicked in money into companies like Carta, where a $1,000 investment today is worth over $2 to $3 million, right? Think about that kind of gain and appreciation. Instead of investing $1,000, what if you invested $1 million, $10 million? What kind of huge outcomes you could generate? Other pros are, like, for me, I love investing in companies as a VC because I'm a very intellectually curious person. And so every day I get to meet with entrepreneurs, learn about new business models, new technologies. You're always on the cutting edge, which is super fun. I also like building things alongside other people and helping them achieve their dreams, which is a big part of what venture capitalists do. Now, let's talk about some of the cons. Venture capital is not really built out for everybody. So for one, it's extremely hard to land a job in venture. There are as many jobs in venture capital as there are in professional sports. Think about that for a minute. Like, what does it take to become a professional athlete, right? It takes a ton of work and a lot of luck. And it's not too dissimilar from venture capital. Another con is, I get to back some phenomenal entrepreneurs, but more often than not, I'm telling people no. You got to get into the practice of saying no, but saying it in such a nice way that you're able to maintain the relationship, because you never know, that company could achieve success in the future and you don't want to burn that bridge or ruin that relationship.
We must be careful not to burn our bridges.
Another con that people don't really think about is what happens if you work in venture capital and you're not successful. So in VC, you're investing in these companies and it can take like 7 to 10 years before you know if you're a good venture capitalist or not. So let's say you start investing as a VC, 7 years from now, you realize like you're not very good at this, but now you've just sunk 7 to 10 years of your life into this industry and you don't really have any meaningful experience doing anything else to transition to another career.
What am I gonna do? What am I gonna do?
So in some ways, like, venture capital can be an incredibly risky career choice because it's really hard to make good investments and you don't know if those investments have paid off for a long time. And if they haven't, nobody else is gonna invest more money behind you. And now you got to go find something else to do, which can be incredibly challenging. But all of that said, here's one of the funnest things about venture that's a little less known, is that it's one of those few careers where you really only have to be right like 30% of the time, and you will be heralded as a complete genius. Think about the investors who put money into companies like Google and Amazon and Airbnb. They made maybe one good investment, and that one good investment put over $100 million, and in some cases, like $1 billion in their pockets. And so every other investment they could have made, like, it doesn't even matter. Like, they're set for life. Like, it only takes one.
Thinking rich. Thinking rich.
So there are trade-offs and there's a lot of risk, but the flip side is there's a lot of really good upside if you can make it work. If you're still interested, let's talk about how do you get into venture. So the first thing you have to understand is there are two types of jobs in venture capital. Basically, they all boil down into two buckets. You've got partners and you have everybody else. So everybody else would include analysts, associates, administrative assistants, CFOs, all of the support staff. And then you have partners. And partners are the ones that ultimately have the decision-making authority in terms of deciding what deals to invest in. And they also get compensated the most. Basically, the compensation structure breaks down where partners are paid salary, which can be very meaningful. And then on top of that, they're also paid carry. Now, carry is like a bonus on your performance. It's a percentage of the profits of the fund. So if you have a $100 million fund, you invest that $100 million and you turn it into $300 million, let's say, then you're going to capture 20% of the profit. So it'd be $200 million of profits. You're going to get 20% of that, which would be $40 million. That's a pretty good payday. And on top of that, you're also getting paid management fee and salary if you're a partner. Now, if you're not a partner, you're everybody else. And for those individuals, you can make a good living, but you're only going to be paid a salary. So as you're thinking about like venture capital and what kind of job you want to get, you want to be thinking about which of those two buckets you want to work in. So let's talk about those two. So if you want to work as an analyst, right? You're pretty young in your career, you don't have a lot of experience yet, you're probably going to start in your VC career as an analyst or an associate. The easiest pathways for that are to work in investment banking, management consulting, go work for a startup that's successful, and then work your way in and apply to a venture fund. That's probably the easiest way to work as an analyst or associate. If you want to work as a CFO or executive assistant, oftentimes venture funds will post job opportunities for that, and you can just apply like you normally would for any other job. If you want to be a partner, or you want to at least get partner track, you have to be able to demonstrate your ability to do two of three things really well. So the first one is you have to be able to fundraise. The second is you have to be able to source deals. And the third is you have to be able to pick great investments to invest in. Now, you don't have to do all three. You actually only have to be world-class at two of those. But being world-class at even one of those is really challenging.
Looks that way.
So let's talk about those three and how you might develop the skills necessary to become world-class at those three. So let's talk about skill number one, fundraising. Really, at the end of the day, venture capitalists are entrepreneurs, right? We have to go out and raise money just like entrepreneurs do. And so from a fundraising perspective, here's the thing that's really challenging. As a VC, you have to go to people and convince them that you can manage their money better than they can. If you imagine like how a venture capitalist goes out and pitches, right? Essentially what they're saying is,
Hey, so I want you to invest in my fund. I don't know what it's going to be, what I'm going to invest in yet. It's going to be awesome though. Trust me.
So there's a lot of salesmanship that goes into it. And ideally, like you're able to sell a track record, but there's also a certain amount of like building relationships with the various types of investors that would find this type of investment interesting. So that would be like high net worth individuals, pension funds, endowments, fund of funds, sovereign wealth funds, etc. And if the broader network you have of those types of individuals and the better your ability to sell, the easier it will be for you to fundraise. Now that's a skill in of itself. The next skill is really around sourcing deals. It's not enough to just say, oh, hey, I think like Lyft is going to be a successful business. That's not enough. You need to be able to get access to the deal. Just like in dating, the hot girls have a lot of competition, a lot of suitors. It's the same thing with startups. So the hottest startups that are doing the best, that are disrupting massive industries, have tons of attention from venture capitalists. You have to convince those entrepreneurs why they should let you invest in their company. And that in of itself is a skill set, right? So you have to figure out like, hey, what's my angle? Just like any sales process. Like, am I gonna add like unique value, or do I have a unique brand that's gonna be super helpful? Or am I just like a really good person that you would want to engage with, right? You got to figure out kind of your angle in terms of how you're going to convince that entrepreneur to take your money. And then the third skill is actually picking the deals. So there could be a lot of hype around a startup, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a good deal. And so you have to develop the ability to do underlying due diligence and make good investment decisions. Essentially, you have to develop that skill of looking into the crystal ball and predicting the future. All right, so how do you develop these skills? Well, most people, the pathways into venture capital and generating these skills are doing investment banking, management consulting, working at a startup, starting your own company and making it successful, and then leveraging kind of those skills and relationships over time to build out two of those three skills.
That incomplete was your training.
Here's my tip that I told you I would give you at the beginning of the video. One of the things that I've seen that has been extremely successful for people who have done this is they will go and apprentice with a high net worth individual or angel investor. So what they do is they identify like, hey, this person just exited their business for a lot of money. I'm going to go to them and I'm going to basically pitch them on the one thing that I have that they don't, and that is time. So I will go and hunt down deals for you. I will do the due diligence on those deals, and I will monitor the portfolio companies for you. And I will do that almost for free, right? So maybe you work out some sort of agreement where you get a cut of the deals. But what that does for you is a lot of things. So one, you may not have the resources to invest day one. Partnering with somebody like that gives you the resources. Two, you may not have anything really meaningful of value that you can add to an entrepreneur, but they might because of their expertise. And so you're able to tap into their brand and their expertise to get access to really interesting deals. From there, what that allows you to do is start building a track record where you are identifying investment opportunities, you're doing your due diligence on them and learning how to do that well. You're learning from the high net worth individual or angel investor. They're providing the capital and you're along for the ride. And when you're done, you will have built a track record that you can sell to potential investors and say, hey, I sourced this deal, I did the due diligence and I tracked it and I have a great relationship with the entrepreneur. It also gives you the ability to develop that skill set around investing. And over time, it should also give you the ability to add value to those portfolio companies and future entrepreneurs that you might back, thereby giving you kind of everything you need to go off and work in venture capital. And some of the best VCs that I know have done that very exact track, but it's kind of a lesser known thing because it requires people to get a little bit outside of their comfort zone and to be a little creative. So, key takeaway for today is VC is hard. It's not all it's made up to be, but if you can land it and you can build the skill sets to be successful in it, it can be a very fulfilling and lucrative career. And speaking of success, like I said, you don't actually have to have a ton of experience to get started. Check out this video here where I'll talk about how you can work in VC with little or no experience.